Everybody, Alexander Gill here. Hope you're keeping well and adapting well in these current times. So, this week I'm going to talk about grit. So, I finished a great book, but also upon self reflection, there's things that I would love to share with you. So, I feel that grit is definitely a characteristic that's essential to your own success of fulfillment for you. And then I also feel that it's definitely something that you can work on and grow. So I'll give you some tips throughout a bit nearer the end, and I'll try and keep this down to as minimum time as I can. So what is grit? Grit is the practice of optimistic self-talk. It's holding on to hope, even though when hope may not be seen. It is a growth mindset. So I did another video on that of verse fixed mindset, so feel free to check that out. And it's the perseverance over adversity. So it's understanding your why, and that gives you the passion, therefore it enables the grit. So we often, as humans, we're social beings, and we judge ourselves on our own intentions and others on their actions. So definitely take audit of these types of things, and everyone's watching. So we've got so much connected media these days, social media, that make it a show worth watching. And how are you going to do that? By growing your grit, growing you. So some believe that grit is formed in the crucible adversity, and I can definitely do another talk on adversity, because adversity is a bridge, it's not a wall. And that there's, to paraphrase one of the philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche, he said, "What doesn't kill you make you stronger." And you've probably heard that 1,000 times, and as a child growing up, you definitely heard that, and it's so true. But these are all tests that are your testimony. And if you reflect back, maturity is just how you perceive these tests. As you grow older, you'll have more tests, and you probably think, oh, geez, like right now, this whole time with COVID, people are saying it's the worst recession ever. It'll happen in another 10 years. So it's always perception and what you perceive as a big deal. And persistence eventually delivers rewards. So really building that grit and persistence within you. I think persistence is probably one of the greatest attributes you can have, along with patience. And whatever you sign up for is, you have to see it through to the end. Our society now harvests a whole instant gratification, Instagram, everything's there so easy that a lot of delayed gratification isn't practiced, and that's really, really key. So there was another point I was going to touch on there, that so we often start new things, like a new sport, we want to get good at it, and we ramp up and then we plateau, and that's often where people quit, because they're just like, I'm not good at it, I'll try something else. Get good at it and plateau. But what do you want to see out to the end? Because at the end of the day, we're all like plants. If we're fed and watered in the right way, you'll grow into this beautiful, strong being. It's just about care and the right environment. I'll touch on environment in a moment as well, but Brent Roberts coined the correspondence principle, which is the theory of personal development, the foremost authority of what leads the enduring changes in how people think, feel, and act in different situations. This suggests that there's very traits that steer us towards certain life situations are the very same traits that those situations encourage, reinforce, and amplify. So if your environment dictates performance, therefore as a team it's more about, if everyone else is gritty, then you'll become more gritty, and you'll become gritty through osmosis. So easy way is to just conform. The basic human need is to fit in. But before I move on to the need to fit in, I wanted to touch on, if you wanted to get good at basketball, would you join a basketball team where everybody is a beginner like you? Or would you join a team that is crushing it, that are absolutely killing it, they're really good? Because if you're around those really good basketball players, you get so much more quickly upskill and be like them as well, or you hanging around these. So I'm not saying go out there and hang out with people that are very self-sabotaging and in that sense of gritty. But what I mean is more that people have tails, but they don't share that negative energy onto yourself. So if we talk more about the need to fit in, grit's like a logical identity. So Sigmund Freud, who was a pioneer, some of you may have known, in how we connect our mind, body, and spirit, he actually spoke about two different motives, so the sex urge and the desire to be great. John Dewey, who was an American philosopher, took this desire to be great and he took it to desire to be important. And we can further break that down into three things, which is the idea, the desire to be seen, the desire to be heard, and the desire to fit in. And as social beings, we're always trying to fit in. Like if you see anybody walking down the high street, often friends who wear similar hats, similar shoes, anything like this. We are community bred beings. So every human on this planet wants to be seen. This is why we've got these strange apps on our phones. Everyone wants to be heard. That's why we utilize these public billboards for posting your opinions. They're not always facts. They definitely take audit of where the research and references come from. And every human wants to fit in. So as Homo sapiens, we are social beings, that we're not isolated like some of like snow leopards and things out there, but we want to fit in. So take audit of what you're fitting into. And another philosopher in my eyes is Dr. Seuss, some of you may have heard of. So he says it quite well, that be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And I love that, because it's so true. If people actually truly care, they love you because you're the best you. You are not a best second class version of somebody else. So always be yourself. Dale Carnegie put it fantastically. The rare individual who honestly satisfies this heart hunger will hold people in the palm of his or her hand, because you know who you are. So if we talk about more about growing grit, then you can grow your grit. It starts with the inside out. So if you think of an egg, I know I may look a bit like an egg, but if you think of an egg that if you put pressure from the outside, it's going to crack. Whereas if you put pressure from the inside and it grows out of its shell. So you can actually start by becoming gritty internally. And I'll touch on another point to finish on there. You can cultivate this through your own interests, doing deliberate practice, habit setting, connecting to your purpose, learning to hope when all seems lost. Learning to hope when it all seems lost is so important, because that's really, I'll talk about the formula in a second as well, but it's the whole faith and having hope, but that's part of the whole grit process. And then continuing to put one foot in front of the other. I know sometimes it can be hard, but just that extra push, that extra 1%, the extra foot, holding on to interest in a purposeful goal, the interest to invest, day after day, week after week, year after year into challenging practice, to get knocked down 7 times and get back at 8 times. We often think that we have a hard time, but in actual fact, this was one of the points I wanted to talk about. We actually have a problem processing our emotions. We don't actually have real world problems often. Some things people have gone through, and I'm not knocking anyone that's gone through things. I've gone through huge adversity, and that'll be my next talk. But the problems we face is actually processing our emotions, because we live in such a comfortable society. Grit is here when the champion is made from the slight purpose and improvements. So your preparation and flow is for your performance, whereas grit is a clear vision with discipline and effort to maintain the vision. So if we break down the formula for grit, in my eyes, is your interest plus your practice of purpose plus hope. And just to finish on, give you perspective that what are the stories that you tell yourself? So I hope this has helped somebody out there, and I've had a great time chatting with you. So speak soon.